We've been talking about social media data all month long, and I knew I couldn't end our series without introducing you to Allison Krysl, a self-proclaimed numbers nerd who's always ready to build a spreadsheet. She's a former elementary teacher who has always loved gathering information about what her students were learning to help her figure out what to teach next. And as she shifted into the online business world space, she realized her passion for helping people fall in love with numbers is needed here too. Nowadays, she gets to partner with busy entrepreneurs to build spreadsheets, demystify data, and make numbers simple, all so you are able to dig into your numbers and walk away with the information you need to make confident decisions. So teacher authors, go ahead and reheat that cup of coffee because I'm your host, Cassandra Foster, and we're about to get schooled in socials. Welcome back to Schooled in Socials. Today I have Allison Krysl here with us. And for those of you who don't know, I actually partnered with Allison to create the amazing post and profit data tracker that is in my course. And so, of course, I needed to have Allison come on and chat with all of you about data because she is amazing when it comes to collecting and analyzing data for your business. So thank you so much, Allison, for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
So let's dive right in. My listeners know that keeping an eye on their social media data is super important, and that's something that I talk about all the time. But from your perspective, why is it so important to have a pulse on your social media data when it comes to your business overall?
I love this question, and I think starting here is just so helpful for the conversation because if we kind of lose sight of the why of things, I think tracking data is a really easy thing that just feels like, it's not really important. Like I'll get to it eventually, or like, just didn't have time for it this week, this month, this quarter, whatever. Like it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
And so digging into like, well, why is this something that we actually encourage people to do is helpful, because then you're able to be like, oh yeah, remember that one time that I was listening to that podcast and it was like, oh, it's actually kind of minorly important.
Right.
And I would say maybe even a little bit more than minorly.
Right.
You are so awesome at just like talking up the data and being like, you can actually use this to like make decisions easier. And I think that is just a huge part of why I love digging into numbers, is because ultimately it's just there to help you make decisions easier and like just to cut out some of the pressure, cut out some of the guesswork, for lack of a better term, of trying to figure out like, well, what should I be doing? And as I was thinking about this podcast and like social media data, especially, I was just thinking about if you are trying to use your social media platform to drive clients to your business in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just like into a freebie funnel, you want to know what's working and what isn't. Because if you aren't tracking that data, it's kind of like running ads for a product and not paying attention to like if that product is actually bringing in any sales.
100% agree with you there. Yeah, I think when I kind of first started on my journey as a social media manager, I knew that I wanted to be a big proponent of making social media marketing sustainable for people, because there's just so much like wild advice out there about like how much you should be posting and what you should be posting and what time you should be posting. And it's like super overwhelming. And I was like, teachers and teacher sellers are like already super overwhelmed people as it is. So like, how can I make this as sustainable as possible for them? And that's when I was like, well, we don't need all of this like guru advice if we just look at the data, because the data is going to tell you where you need to go next.
Absolutely.
Cutting down on that decision fatigue, especially as a business owner. And I know like a lot of my audience is still in the classroom. So like they're making a zillion decisions every day, right? And then to like sit down and be like, what am I supposed to post on Instagram so that I drive traffic to my TPT store? That is completely overwhelming. So being able to just like sit down and look at your data and say, this is what works and this is what I should do more of, can cut down on that decision fatigue so much.
Absolutely. And I think that is one of the biggest reasons why, is just to help you out and to be able to have that confidence of like, okay, I'm going to do this because I've seen in the past that it's worked well, or it has like accomplished whatever I've been trying to accomplish. And so I'm just going to keep running with it. Like if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And then another piece of the puzzle that I think numbers aren't always viewed as is they can also just help you cut through the emotions that come with social media. Because I think like social media, it can feel like you're just kind of guessing, you're throwing things out there. One day, like you feel amazing, you had something go viral, it was great. And then other days, you're just ready to like burn it to the ground because you're like, nothing's working.
Right.
I'm not getting any bites, yada, yada, you. But actually being able to look at some concrete numbers and being able to be like, oh, actually, like this week is very normal for me. Like things are going as they should is just helpful to not feel like you are like failing or not feel like you are not measuring up, quote unquote, to whatever the standard of social media is.
Being able to see those trends over time.
Yes.
So when this interview is going to come out, it will be October, and we are going to be getting close to the holiday season. And historically, across Instagram, everyone sees a dip in engagement during this time because just think about how crazy our lives get around the holidays, right? And to see that in your data and know that, and just like for teachers to know, like, we're probably going to see a summer lull, right? Because teachers have checked out, like, they do not want to be thinking about their resources right now. But just being able, if you track that data, you can see that trend over time and you can plan for it and you can know about it. And then you don't have to feel like, oh, nothing is working. This isn't working for me. Should I be doing this? You'll be able to know when those things historically are going to happen for you. And I think that's really important. And I think I do a monthly report every month for my clients, and it's really helpful for them to see those trends over time and to see things like, maybe I only gained a few followers this month, but I actually reached a lot more people. Like my content was in front of a lot more people. Well, if that was your goal, like you're doing great. Who cares if you added 50 new followers, if you got in front of like a million people and that was your goal, then you're doing awesome. Or if your goal was to funnel people to your freebie, okay, so you didn't gain a lot of followers, but guess what? You had like 200 link clicks this month, right? People were traveling to that. So just being able to hone in on those trends and on your goals and just being able to feel better about how your social media marketing is actually performing.
I think that's the biggest piece of like, is it doing what you are wanting it to? And if it is, fantastic. Keep going.
100%. So you collect a lot of numbers for people across the board for their business, lots of different marketing pieces. So how is collecting and analyzing social media data the same or different from collecting other numbers for your business?
It's a great question. This is my humble pitch of you shouldn't probably just be collecting social media numbers for your business, at least not like all the time, right? Like there might be a season where that's really your focus.
Mm-hmm.
But don't forget there are other numbers out there.
Yes.
But when we think about like social media numbers compared to other numbers, like maybe it's just your financial numbers or your like email marketing numbers or your freebie numbers specifically, when it comes to collecting the numbers, in theory, it's a very similar process, right? Because you are always wanting to collect numbers in a way that is helping gather information about your business. And I like to think of it as like about a specific section or like question about your business.
Mm-hmm.
So like if we dig into finances, gathering your like revenue and expense numbers is helpful to just because, it's good to know if your business is making money or not, generally speaking. Like that's kind of it's a good thing to know.
Mm-hmm.
But like your bank account might not be the only place in your business where you can get that information, or it might not be giving you the whole picture, right? If you are on Teachers Pay Teachers, it might be helpful to look more specifically into like, okay, well, which products are bringing in that revenue source. And this is something that I hear you talk about a lot in your podcast and in your socials, which is awesome. But just that idea of you want to make sure that you are looking and collecting and gathering that number that is connected to your goals, to help see if you're actually meeting the goal, and to help kind of, as you work towards that goal, just give you information of, this is going really well. I'm just going to ride it out through the quarter, or like, ooh, this isn't working the way that I thought it was. Maybe I need to tweak something, change my goal up a little bit, or change some strategy around.
Because when it comes to social media data, I am gathering data for clients. Like, I don't necessarily care about every single little data point. I care about the ones that align to where they're going. So if they're telling me that, hey, I'm launching something in the next 6 weeks, then I am looking to see that we have ramped up reach and engagement, right? I'm looking to see that we have done those things to set them up to be in the best position to launch as possible. Or if they're like, hey, I really want to focus on like X topic, right? I'm honing in on those posts where we talked about that topic, so I know which ones are best performing. Just taking a look at your social media data isn't just to say like, wow, I grew this much over the last 3 months, or like, 1 million people saw my reels this month. Like, yes, that is great, but we're looking at the numbers to see what is working to help you get towards your big business goal. Like, that is what I am most concerned with when I sit down to create content for my clients. Is like, what are you working towards? What are your big goals right now? What are you trying to accomplish in your business in this quarter, in this year? And how is social media helping us do that?
Yes, everything you just said. And I think the tricky part with social media numbers is the really easy ones to track are your followers and your reach, because they are the ones that Instagram puts like right front and center. They make it easy to grab. And the data nerd in me, it kills me.
Yeah.
Because for a lot of the goals that entrepreneurs have, and that TPT sellers have, your follower count is not always going to show you if you are actually like going after that goal and succeeding with it. And the annoying thing with Instagram, and maybe one day they'll make this easier. The unfortunate thing is, especially if you are starting to look at engagement, it is so time consuming. It's not so time consuming, but the downside to gathering those social media numbers is it is just much more of a manual process. You have to click into every post. And in my personal opinion, you have to put the information somewhere else. Meta tries.
They do.
To like give you a spot where you can see the information, where you can see the data points, but they don't give you all the numbers there, or it's different, and it's just kind of a hot mess, in my opinion. So I think that the unfortunate thing to social media number collecting is it works so much nicely to throw in a spreadsheet, an Airtable, a Notion database, someplace else, but that does require a little bit more manual effort compared to like Google Analytics on your website is going to be gathering so much more information that you could ever possibly wade through, but making it a lot more automated instead of like the manual, the clicks.
And this is exactly why when I set out to create my course, I was like, I need to put together some sort of tracker that is going to be easy to use and is going to show you those trends. And I knew I needed help. So that's exactly why I came and found you, right? But that is one of the barriers when it comes to collecting your social media data. Is it's not as nicely set up as some other marketing pieces in your business, like with Google Analytics or with your email marketing potentially. There is some like digging that you need to do. And I think that's where people find it a little more difficult. And that's when we fall back on like the follower count and the reach, even though it's not connected to our goals. And so that's why I was like, I need something to break down this barrier, which is that tracker that we built together. But yeah, I wish Meta would put together better analytics. And maybe someday they will be listening to all of us and that will happen. That will be my hope. But until then, if you want to get in on your social media analytics, that tracker in my course is amazing. Allison was phenomenal helping me build that for sure.
I will say I am slightly biased, but after I terrified all of your listeners about how annoying it is, I do think that being able to have something in place that's already been created and then has your helpful like walkthrough of this is how you do it. Once you know the drill,
Right.
it does not take long. And I think the other piece of the puzzle that I loved in what we created was you just being like, all right, Allison, here's the deal. I want something that people can plug in their goals, choose the numbers that link to that goal. And then those are the ones that show up on their quarterly reports like right away. Right. And I was like, that sounds amazing. And it was just so much fun to be able to create something that we can just have as that template. But then each individual TPT seller or teacherpreneur or whatever, whoever you are, is able to use it and then customize it for their own goals.
Right.
But like, it's already set up. It's already created. You just have to choose a couple drop downs and these beautiful graphs will populate everything. It's just, you'll see the thumbnail for your, I love it.
If you are listening to this and you love geeking out with spreadsheets and things like that, you need to get into the course and see the tracker because it will make you so happy. There's no doubt if you've been around for a hot minute, you know the importance of analyzing your social media data to help you reach your big business goals. But if the thought of diving into that data on your own has been holding you back from the content clarity that it can bring, I've got your back. With my quarterly data analysis service, I'm here to be your data bestie right alongside of you, diving into your analytics and outlining a content plan so that you can take effective action. This way, you get all the benefits of having your eyes on your data to help make goals for the new year without having to take a course or wade through the numbers by yourself. It's time to tap into the magic of your social media data, and you don't even have to add anything to your plate to do it. Just hop on the waitlist right now in the show notes. I know your future self will thank you. Okay, Allison. So for those who are just starting out collecting their data, kind of like we were just talking about, if you're not already collecting your social media numbers, what are some systems and processes you would suggest putting in place?
Absolutely. I am going to steal a classic elementary ed phrase, but just the idea of starting slow to go fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, my encouragement would be don't try to go art and like get the last 5 years of your social media data in one weekend. Like probably don't do that. And also just like be really picky in the number that you choose to collect, because I find often when people throw in the towel of just like, I'm done, like this numbers collecting thing isn't for me, is often because they're trying to do too much and it just becomes overwhelming. Right. Instead of just starting with a couple of things and then adding them on as you kind of have mastered those.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my biggest, like, first piece of advice. Then when it comes to like actual processes, I would highly recommend like finding some way to get organized, how you enjoy staying organized. For me, that's a spreadsheet with color codes and fancy graphs and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. If that sounds amazing to you, but you don't want to build it, go join the course and it's there for you. But otherwise, like a spreadsheet, an Airtable, a Notion database, a sticky notes if you have to, pen and paper if you really want to, all that good stuff. But then actually like write it down on your calendar of something that you are going to do. If you're not posting a lot on social media, like monthly, quarterly, that's perfectly fine when it comes to being consistent. And then I encourage clients and people that I work with to write out your steps, like step by step by step by step. Like what is the first thing that I do? Mm-hmm. Think of it as like you're creating that SOP, which stands for
Standard Operating Procedure.
Thank you. Yes. Like you would do for another part of your business and just follow that until it becomes second nature and you don't need to pull up that document anymore. Mm-hmm. But that just will help cut through the overwhelm of like, dang it, I don't remember how to find this number. I don't remember what to do next. I don't remember like what I really need.
Then you're just not going to do it.
Exactly.
And if you set yourself up for success by building in all those steps for yourself with your SOP and refining them over time, guess what? When you are ready to have maybe a VA or someone else on your team, it's going to be super easy to hand off that data collection to them.
100%. And you'll still be getting the same data and the same consistency because they will know exactly what to do.
Yes.
Because you have it figured out.
I 100% agree with Allison. Start with your big business goal and think about, what do I want to see my people doing on social media to get there, right? If you're working on growing like your email list, okay? So like the first step is, if I'm going to grow my email list through social media, I need more people to know who I am. I need a bigger reach. So maybe you just start by looking at your reach number. Or if, like we were talking about, pushing more people towards your freebie once you have a bigger reach in order to get on that list, that next step would be maybe link clicks that they're going to go to your link and they're going to get it, or comments on your posts where you're asking them to comment in order to get access to that resource. So just thinking about, like, what do I want to see my people doing? Think about the first step they would need to take in order for you to make your big business goal happen, and just start by looking at that number and trying to increase that number.
Absolutely. And like, stop paying attention to the rest of it.
Right. Make it go away. Like in the course, we focus on like the top 3 data points that are going to get you to your big business goal. And sure, everything else is there for you too in that tracker if you want to take a peek at it. But those are your top 3. Those show up at the top, and those are all you have to focus on. I think that really cuts down the overwhelm, especially for, and I don't collect a lot of like other marketing data. I'm really kind of in the social media sphere, but there is so much data, so much that you can collect, and it can become very overwhelming very quickly. So narrowing it down to what connects to your big business goal is definitely the way to get started. So Allison, for those people who might like still be on the fence about jumping in, collecting their social media data for their business, what opportunities do you think they're risking or losing out on if they decide not to collect their social media data?
The first word I wrote down was tons.
I 100% agree with you there.
But I think I really bring it back to these 3 characteristics almost that you can add into your business, regardless of what goal you're working towards or what numbers you're paying attention to or whatever you are like focusing on. I think the opportunity is risking losing out on growing in clarity, direction, and confidence. Your numbers can bring you clarity, especially when we think of social media. It will just help you know like what's doing well in terms of content. What content is your audience gravitating towards? What's landing well? And then also, like, one step further, you can also gain clarity with just like your caption writing. Like, is your caption writing helping people move towards those call to actions? And even just the word, like the text on your posts, reels, all that good stuff.
Yes.
Which then leads into, once you kind of have that clarity, you're able to grow in your direction. You know, like what direction to move your business in. You know, if you're moving towards your goals, you know, if you need to maybe tweak something or even just change the goal a little bit of like, hey, I don't think I'm going to reach this. Like, this was maybe too large of a stretch. I'm just going to bring it down for this quarter and then we'll work on it again. And then with all of that, like, you are just able to gain a lot of confidence in the decisions that you're making and yourself as a business owner. And I think ultimately your social media account, which I think will probably lead to even more sales, even more like leads, even more like whatever, because that confidence just will like start seeping through. Seeping is a bad word, but like it will start oozing out.
Yeah.
And people will be like, oh, okay, this person knows what she's talking about. This person believes in the things that she has to offer. And like, clearly she knows me as her audience, as her potential buyer.
Right.
And so then you are just able to, like, throwing it back to the very beginning of our conversation, like, not have to worry about all the emotional, like, ebbs and flows that come with riding the social media wave, and are just able to rest easy because you know, like, no, I'm making these decisions because the numbers are backing up. Like, these decisions make sense based on what I'm shooting for in my business. And I don't need to compare it. I think that's the other thing. You can stop comparing yourself to this like amazing person on social media who has like, you know, 10 million followers and makes this much money. And it's like, well, that's not my goal right now because that's not where I am.
Right. And I think once you have gained that clarity and the direction and the confidence, it becomes so much easier to actually sit down and create your content. And it makes your social media marketing feel easier.
Absolutely.
The more you look at your numbers, the more you can tune out all of the noise on social media, and you can hone in on where you're going and what you want to be accomplishing with your business. I think that's a big thing in the social media sphere. Like we talked about a little bit earlier, there is so many people out there giving so much advice about what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, what's trending, blah, 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 blah. And that makes it so overwhelming. But if you get down and take a look at your numbers and you see what's working and you find those trends, you can confidently move forward no matter what anyone else is saying, no matter what new feature Instagram rolls out, no matter how they tweak their algorithm, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can look at the numbers and you can find those trends and you can continue creating more content that is resonating with your audience and moving you towards your goals, social media marketing is going to be so much easier for you and hopefully enjoyable.
And take less time.
Yes, right? None of us have enough time. So if we can do something, if we can front load and get a data habit in and work on that and make everything easier in the long run, that is the place to be.
Absolutely.
Data all the way. I know you share this love with me.
It's so good.
It's so good. All right, Allison. So thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about what you do and how you can help them?
Yes, my Instagram handle is hello_Allison Krysl. Super weird last name, but Krysl, 0 vowels. Super fun. I also have a website.
I can link it down in the show notes for you.
Excellent. It's linked down in the show notes. Yeah, and I actually have a freebie. So my freebie is like would pair super great, I think, with your course. There's a whole section on social media numbers, but it's really just helping you kind of get at that thing that we were talking about of like, how can we pair your goals with a number by thinking about what questions are you asking? Like what questions do you want to know about your business? And therefore, what number should you pay attention to?
And if you want to know if this is the season where you should dive into your social media data, go and grab that freebie from Allison because you'll be able to ask yourself those questions and you'll be able to figure it out. And it is not going to hurt my feelings any if you realize that you should be looking at your email marketing numbers more than your social media numbers right now, because whatever you need to be looking at to make progress in your business is what I want for you. And I know social media is just a small part of that. So if you are questioning, like, is this the season? Is this the right time? That freebie is going to help you know where you need to go next.
So wise.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Allison.
Thank you for having me.
All right, cold coffee friends, thanks so much for listening. If you're loving getting schooled in socials, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Also, I would love it if you left a review so that other teacher authors like you can start getting schooled in socials too. All right, I'll see you in the next episode.